In today's video, we are going to talk about how to become an expert in awakening. And the reason why I'm smiling is because so many people on this planet still believe that this is not possible or this is a scam. But this discovery has taken me 30 years of figuring out how to become an expert, then experiencing it, verifying it on myself, and then testing it with our students. So I know for sure that this works. And if you want to find out from our students, you can go ahead and review the extensive interviews that we've did with them so that you can see that it works. In this video, you are going to find out how is it possible to become an expert in awakening, what makes it possible to become an expert, and then the exact system that is necessary for you to master your awakening journey. I truly believe it is time now that we have an innovation in the field of awakening, in the field of self-realization, in the sense that we have a reliable, precise system or formula or method that we can follow to go all the way through the ultimate stage of awakening where separation no longer exists. To truly live as the truth, to truly live our infinite being in our day-to-day human life. Because this is what awakening is about. It is a process. And this is one of the big issues that appear in the awakening landscape. Many seekers have a glimpse of awakening, and then they believe that going about their awakening journey is to chase glimpses of truth, to chase moments of experiencing their true nature. But it doesn't work, does it? And it doesn't last, does it? This is one of the biggest traps that seekers fall into, trying to chase glimpses of awakening or trying to hold on to states that they have achieved, so to speak, in a retreat, in a workshop, in a meditation, whatever that is. But that's also not going to work because you cannot hold on to something that you haven't embodied, that's something that you haven't become fully familiar with, because this is what makes awakening stick. So, how is it possible to become an expert in awakening? This is how. Awakening happens in stages. This is something most seekers are not aware of or are not looking at in order to truly master their awakening journey. Because when you know the stages of awakening, you are at least theoretically familiarized with how the awakening process goes, then you can pinpoint where you are at in your own awakening journey and then find out what is the step that you need to take in order to navigate that stage, right? So this is what allows us to become experts at awakening, not only knowing the stages very clearly, very precisely, but of course knowing how to master each stage. First, we need to catalyze that stage of awakening, then we need to stabilize it, and then we need to establish it in such a way that it is fully embodied, fully lived, so that we can naturally move on to the next stage. It happens naturally. It's not something that we do by will. What we do by will is navigate the stages with a precise method for each stage. This is how you become an expert in awakening. You learn the stages, you learn the precise method, the most refined, the finest method for each stage, and then you become a master of the challenges of every method, of applying every method. That is how you master the journey of awakening, and that is how you become an expert at it. Every single stage is, of course, an unfolding, a deepening, and this is where most seekers get it wrong because they go about their awakening process horizontally, thinking that depth will happen through accumulation. But that cannot be, right? Awakening requires depth and requires deepening, continuous deepening. So that is how each stage is an unfolding. Normally, we would not need to go through stages of awakening if we would not have been conditioned to believe that we are something else than we actually are. If we would have not been conditioned to believe that we are not already that which we seek, because we are already that which we seek, only we don't see that, we don't believe that, we don't know that clearly. And that is why the awakening process is a process, has its stages. So once again, the reason why it is possible to become an expert in awakening, and this is an innovation in awakening. It is a system that revolutionizes the awakening paradigm, because you now have absolute clarity about the stages, the method for each stage, and how to overcome the challenges that are clearly pinpointed on how to master each method. So mastering each method, meaning mastering its challenges, is equals mastering the journey of awakening, equals being an expert in awakening. And in other words, being an expert in awakening is knowing exactly where you are and what to do no matter what happens in your life, as you intentionally deepen your awakening process. What is awakening? So what does it mean to deepen your awakening? It means you become more and more clear on who you are at each stage of awakening. And as I've mentioned repeatedly, and I am going to briefly mention here, the 3 stages of awakening that are very clear, very precise, very known in certain spiritual circles are: the first stage is the felt understanding and stabilizing of this understanding of yourself, that everything arises to you. Meaning, I am not that which I experience. I am not the body-mind. I am not my thoughts, my emotions, my sensations, and my perceptions. I am that which is aware of them. So this is not just a thought. It is a sense of self. That is how you experience yourself to be, the witnessing awareness. And we have a precise method for this that allows you to catalyze, to stabilize, and to deepen your first stage of awakening until you've mastered it so much that it naturally collapses into the next stage, which is everything arises in me. So whatever I experience, I become aware that I am the field of awareness within which everything that I experience arises. So now I no longer think of experience as something separate from myself. It is a part of myself. It arises within me. And again, this is a sense of self. It is an experiential experience, lived experience. It's not something that you just think. It's something that you live. So in the first stage, you recognize everything arises to me, but then in stage 2, you recognize not only everything arises to me, but everything actually that arises to me actually arises in me. So now I realize that I am no longer just the distant witnessing awareness that is aware of its experience, but I am the field of awareness within which this experience arises. And the more you stabilize this, the more you deepen this experience of yourself, what happens is you no longer want to resist experience. You no longer want to reject experience. You no longer want to escape experience, no matter what that experience is. And here I'm talking about your thoughts, your emotions as well. You understand them experientially to be part of yourself, to be arising within you. And when this deepens, you no longer notice any tendency in yourself to flee an experience, to look away from an experience, to hide away from an experience, to resist an experience, to push away, banish, separate yourself from an experience, no matter what that experience is. And the more you've deepened this understanding of yourself, which is a felt understanding, it is a lived understanding, the more you embody this sense of self, that everything arises in me, the more you know yourself as the field of awareness within which everything arises. And then naturally, when you've lived that experience enough so that it's stable in you, you then realize in stage 3 that comes naturally that not only everything arises to me, and that which arises to me arises actually in me, but you realize that that which arises in me actually arises as me. You recognize that those parts of you that you've received within you are actually not separate from you. I am my experience. I am awake in every experience is a way that you can live and understand this third stage. It's where separation no longer exists. You are no longer separate from that which you experience. Subject-object relationship collapses. There is no duality anymore. This is where oneness becomes tangible, becomes familiar in lived experience. And I'm going to make a video where I am going to explain how to recognize and how each stage is lived. I am going to share from my own experience and the experience of our students so that you can recognize even better where you are at in your own journey. So this is how becoming an expert in awakening is possible. Knowing the stages, knowing the method for each stage, knowing the challenges for each stage, and knowing exactly how to overcome them. This is how the new world is going to be and should be. And of course, this is only for people who are really deeply drawn to understanding awakening, the mechanics, the actual precise system for going about and deepening our awakening all the way through in the last stage where oneness is lived, where you live as truth, where there's no longer a part of you that is not grounded in awareness, that is not awareness itself. You no longer reject or resist any part of yourself. It is time that we have such a clear, tangible system that guides us with precision through the stages of awakening. No more guessworking and fumbling and questioning and doubting, and no, direct experience. And when you go about your awakening in this way, you cut straight through all the conditioning, and you basically widen the light of awareness within each stage, within each level of your being, mental, emotional, and physical, meaning awareness takes more and more space, illuminates all of your being more and more and more. This is another way of looking at how this process unfolds. But of course, talking about it even is limiting it, because words cannot describe and will never be able to tell the whole truth. These are just indicators about how the process unfolds and how you feel when you go through these stages. And now I'm gonna share with you what is the method for each stage. And I'm not gonna go into the challenges for each stage, because that's something that we go deep into inside the Aware Deep Dive, which is a 1-year journey for those who want to experience awakening deeply, to really get to the bottom of this thing and master their awakening journey, understand what it is to live as truth. If you want something like that, then this is for you. I will leave a link below this video and in the first pinned comment under this video, where you can go and check it out if you want to join. Our next group begins on June the 2nd. So each stage has its own method that is going to catalyze, stabilize, and establish that stage. So make it permanent, so to speak. And for stage 1, which is everything arises to me, positioning yourself, learning about yourself, becoming familiar of yourself as the awareness, as that which is aware of every experience, we use the self-realization method, the core method that reveals ourselves to ourselves and allows us to recognize our own infinite true being instantly in the moment of any experience. And the way that this method is different is that it has 3 very clear, precise steps that you cannot miss and that you can rely on anytime you choose to shift into the peace of your own being, into the recognition, because that is always there. All we need is to learn how to make that shift. So in stage 1, we take a step back from experience in order to clarify who is the I that we refer to all day long. All the suffering that is going on is because we lack clarity about the I. We mistaken the I with our experiences, with our thoughts, with our sensations and perceptions. So that lack of clarity about who we are is what creates the suffering and what creates a sense of a separate self that is experiencing all the suffering, because our true nature knows no suffering. It's infinite, it's eternal, it's absolutely complete and at peace, as an eternal infinite being should be, because nothing is ever lacking and there's no possibility of fear, so there's no possibility of suffering. So for stage 2, we use the core method, and the application of the core method is incredibly simple. It is instant, but it comes with its own challenging. Like every mastery that you are going to engage in, it's going to have its own challenges. So coming into a 1-year deep dive, it's what's going to give you the space and enough time to catalyze and to stabilize and to establish each stage so that you can become a master of it. What makes this method different is that it can be applied by everyone because it's step by step, very clear, very precise, very reliable and tangible. So it's like a pathway. Take this step 1 here, the next step here, and the next step here, and you're home, basically. That's how it goes. And this is something that you receive in the second call of our work together inside a deep dive, so you can start practicing right away. It is totally tailored to the group's energy and pace, so that's the beauty of it. It's not a rigid system, but it is a precise guideline to orient ourselves. Where are we on the path? What we are doing here to deepen this, and how do we move on to the next, and what is that which we do there. So for stage 2, we use the mastery of emotional healing. When you heal emotionally, you will implicitly heal limiting beliefs, and you will also heal physical pain. But of course, this is not a replacement for medical assistance or medical advice. It is just to understand that emotional healing is connected to healing limiting beliefs and healing pain in the body. So mastering emotional healing can be done only after you've mastered the core method, because that which heals is love. Because you need to build the resilience, the knowing that you are the presence of awareness in order to be able to stand and not run away from your own pain. To stand with it, to hold it, to accept it, to embrace it, to love it. You need to know yourself as the awareness in order to be able to heal emotionally. Of course, emotional healing and applying the exact method for mastering emotional healing comes with its own challenges, and that's where we go deep. They're very exact, very precise. We can pinpoint them. I've studied them. I've documented them. There are not many. And if you just pay attention to that, you can master emotional healing. And just imagine how that makes you feel, knowing that no matter what arises, you are able to overcome it with ease, because now you know that everything that arises actually arises in you. It is a part of you, and you no longer want to flee from the scene. You want to open up and embrace that part that is in pain and recognize it as yourself. And that is how we dissolve layers of separation. The more we do this, we get to stage 3, where everything arises as myself. In order to stabilize this stage, which already, as I said, occurs naturally, because the more you acknowledge that everything that arises in you, and it is a part of you, you realize that that part is not actually separate from you. It is you. It is your own activity that arises as that. But we'll leave this for later, for inside the container, when we reach this 3rd stage. Now, what helps us truly ground and deepen this 3rd stage, and also handle the remnant patterns that haven't been yet integrated, parts of our lives that are still not yet working, what helps us pinpoint them very clearly and work with them is the system that is called human design. Human design integrated in this way, where you first know yourself as the presence of awareness, is going to help you recognize and no longer resist your human design. It's going to help you recognize that this human that I am, in this exact specific way that I am designed as a human, is the dance, the activity, the movement of the infinite awareness that I am. In this stage, you discover the infinite nature and the human nature are one and the same. They have never been different. You recognize yourself as this. So there's no longer a separation that you experience. You recognize that I am this. I am this. This that is here now exactly as it is what I have always been seeking for. So it's an incredible discovery, and of course we are going deeper into this, but I just wanted to mention the 3 methods that we use for each stage. And of course you can do that by yourself. You don't need this 1-year deep dive, but it's definitely going to help you immensely to streamline your process, to stay on track, to continue to deepen, not to mention that the absolutely beautiful sacred alchemical container, that is the small group setting that this deep dive is happening in, is an incredible support, loving community, only 10 to 12 people for one group. I like to keep this small so that you can receive personalized guidance and very, very clear directions at every step. So it's very intimate, it's very close, it's very deep, very loving. And if this is something that you've envisioned for yourself, become an expert at awakening in a small group that is going in the same direction, then this might be for you. We begin the next group. In June the 3rd, you can sign up by June the 2nd to join this group. If you're unsure about this and you still have questions, feel free to schedule a call with me. I hope this has brought you hope. It has illuminated the way that you understand awakening, and it has helped you to leave behind the myths that awakening is supposed to be hard, it's supposed to be messy, it's supposed to be filled with suffering and struggle, and it's supposed to be figured out. No, we now have a clear path The tools are at the finest. The direction is depth and stabilization. And all you need for this is your will. You be willing to go all the way through, to live as truth, to live your infinite being. If you like this video, please be kind and like it. It doesn't cost you anything and it's going to help support this channel immensely. It's going to support me to create more videos. I am truly here to support every sincere seeker who is done with seeking, who is done with accumulating glimpses, who wants to go deep and all the way through. This is what I'm here for. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Please let me know, how is your awakening going? What has been the hardest part for you? And if you want to be part of this aware movement of people who accept the fact that awakening can be done faster, clearer, in a more effective way, join our channel, show up for these videos, spread the word, and I will see you next time.